Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. Slight lapse in concentration by myself there. You sort of saw me with blank faces in between the videos because I was trying to work out my headphones because they went funny. But no matter, it's okay. Franchise Tag rolls on. Welcome back, Andrew and Adam, and my co-hosts, and we are back again with another positional preview for the upcoming NFL draft. It's coming out very soon. Date, I cannot remember off the top of my head for the life of me. It's 27th of April, but it'll be the night of. It'll be late into the early hours of the Friday. So if you haven't already and you're really into watching the whole of the draft live as it happens, I definitely recommend booking off the Friday. And of course, the draft will continue on to Friday and into Saturday as well. But very exciting times ahead. Very excited to see the Pittsburgh Steelers may pick, and I'm sure all of you out there are very excited to see who your teams will pick as well. We've already done the quarterback preview, did the running back preview last week with Andrew and Adam, which went really well, and today we're moving on to another great position that has got a lot of talent in this draft. A few may go in the first round. I think it's going to be more likely they may drop into the second round. It's not maybe it's been as a powerful position it has been in a couple of years. However, as we know, wide receiver is a position where the even though they go down the board maybe in a second round, just because you've got a first round wide receiver doesn't mean they're going to be as great as maybe a wide receiver that you get in the fourth or fifth or even maybe sixth round as history has proven to us. But we're going to go into a lot of the wide receivers today. You may have heard some of the names already, but if you are not au fait with a lot of the names, we're going to bring quite a few to you that you can keep an eye out, especially, I suppose, for the teams out there that are looking for that wide receiver in such an important position within the NFL. Such a fun one as well. So, Andrew, Adam, welcome. I think I should just kick us right off, and I suppose we might as well go to Andrew straight off the bat because he's going to know this guy more than me and Adam, let's be honest. And that is the Ohio State wide receiver. If you haven't heard of him already, I'm sure you will soon enough. But Jackson Smith and Jigba JSN, 3 years at Ohio State with 1,698 yards, 10 touchdowns to his name, Andrew. A player that we're all hearing about, very much rumored to go in the first round. A lot of teams are very interested. I mean, some people even reckon top 15 that this player may go. I'm sure it's a player that you've watched with great detail for the last 3 years, given your Ohio State affiliation.
Yeah, an absolutely fantastic player. I mean, not everyone's got him as their number one. I think a lot of people are knocking him in as number two. I think Adam's got another guy above this one, but it's going to be positional, I think, on where he lands because he is an exceptional talent. I mean, when we're talking about terms of players that have come out of that college, when you've recently just had Olave and Wilson, and when you talk about the 2021 season, Jackson Smith and Jigba in the team with Olave and Wilson. He was the best performer of all of them. He had 1,606 yards and 9 touchdowns that season. Absolutely phenomenal. Had his injuries last year, but what we know about this guy, he does what it says on the tin. You know what you're going to get. He's a great route runner. He's got exceptional hands. He doesn't drop the ball. You get him the ball, you know he's going to catch it, and then he's just incredible for yards after the catch. So perfect for using in the slot. I think also what I really like with him, not only does he get the ball and make those yards, but he's a tough guy after the catch as well. He's had 19 forced missed tackles. So it just so much upside, and the ceiling could be so high on this guy coming out of a school that we know produces great route runners. So yeah, absolute fantastic talent. I'm really on the buzz for him. Reminds me a lot of a guy that Adam really, really likes. It reminds me a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown as that type of player who we know has been absolutely fantastic since he's been in the NFL, and he can rival him at that slot position and do the same thing.
Yeah, certainly. Ohio State is known for getting great positional talent. Again, Chris Olave coming out of Ohio State as well. Adam, do you really think he's a sort of a top 15 prospect within this NFL? Because I've seen him range in, out the first round, top 15 talent. I mean, what would you be your assessment of where this player could go?
I can't remember the conversation that me and Andrew had where I had someone else above him. Maybe it was a while ago, and I can't remember who it was. But after looking at the tape and look at this guy is miles ahead of the lot. But I can't understand why anyone wouldn't have him as the number one guy. Yeah, I think he's top 15. I think when I had a look at who came out last year and the players that came out last year. So you had Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Drake London, Traylon Burks, Jameson Williams. You know, these guys were all first rounders. Don't know if there was anyone else. I'm not sure. JSN's the only one who's in that sort of like in that sphere. The rest of them aren't. I kind of felt that was fairly obvious. He's got great hands. He's great yards after the catch. Technician. I remember saying to Andrew when we did a mock episode that we did, to me, it's Julian Edelman. It really is. I don't see a lot of difference in the way that he is. Obviously, he's a lot younger and he hasn't played in the NFL and all that stuff, but you can see it coming a mile off. I think top 15 is certainly possible. And, you know, if the Patriots want to do it, they're 14. So, you know, I mean, they could go for something like that and have the next one in that respect. My only real criticism is that he's probably not the quickest. He's not the most perfect athlete there. But at the same time, neither's Cooper Kupp, and he spent all his time in the slot. And look at what you got from him. So if you can get him in a team that kind of surrounds people around him, I think he could, you know, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I think one thing to note just before we move on from him, you know, when we're talking about the quarterbacks and we're talking about the combine and how Anthony Richardson was a monster and like shattered things. Me and Adam spoke about
the
three cone and the 20-yard shuttle. What he did on that is comparable to what Anthony Richardson did as a quarterback. Those agility ones, he was just off the charts, so much further ahead than everybody else. And they're ones that people don't often look at and take a more depth at. But yeah, just insane.
Well, a lot of my mocks, I've had him going to your New York Giants, Andrew, which I know you'd be absolutely ecstatic about. However, I could be completely wrong. I could be right, or I could even slip even further. It's just one of them with Jackson Smith-Njigba, but I'm really excited to see him start in the NFL. Adam, we'll move on to you and we'll talk about obviously another wide receiver. Jordan Hanson. We're going to talk about Quentin Johnston first, I think. Quentin Johnston, from TCU. He's been there for all over the place here. Quentin Johnston from TCU. 3 years he has been at TCU with 2,190 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. TCU, maybe not seen as a massive school, I suppose, in the sphere of college football. But he's definitely a player that some people have said is going to be the number 1 wide receiver out of this class. What should we be liking about Quentin?
I think he's got great athleticism. He's 6'4", 215 pounds. He's your typical prototype wide receiver that everyone looks for now. I could imagine him certainly as someone that the Green Bay Packers would love. They love their sort of like big athletic guys. He can play
in the second round or the third round.
Yeah. Obviously, let's not get too excited. So he can play all over the field. Good yards after the catch, can separate. The one area that I kind of am actually a little bit surprising, a contested catch, he's not quite as good at that. When they're kind of like, it is sort of like they're both quite close together, he does sometimes struggle to come down with it. But I do think he's got a lot of positives about him. He kind of reminded me a little bit of Brandon Ayuk. He kind of had that sort of look to him that I thought that he would be. Yes, it's NCAA, isn't it? Now this is kind of the issue, I think, with a lot of these wide receivers. They're not playing in the top division. You sort of start going through some of these guys, and that's the issue. But I think he has the potential, certainly, to be something great. However, he is a clear teardrop from Jackson Smith-Njigba. And I think if you're a team that is in desperate need of a big-bodied wide receiver that you can give time to, then I think it'd work. Maybe someone like Tennessee, you could see that kind. They're struggling for receiving options. Mike Vrabel likes the big receivers. Maybe that would work. I'm not saying that he would be AJ Brown of the future, but he could potentially become something big. So, yeah, I think that's probably the sort of spot that would work for him.
So with a big guy like that, Andrew, obviously every NFL team's going to be excited about that. But what we've seen with a lot of big guys and a lot of small guys as well, and I think Adam really did touch on the point there with it, is this about fit for a player like this? Because he's coming out, he's not seen as a generational talent, right? So is this more about the team that may benefit him more rather than what he's individually going to be able to do for that team and to change that franchise?
Yeah, I mean, he's a completely different style of receiver to what we're talking about in Jackson Smith-Njigba, who I was saying is going to play in the slot. This guy is great size, great speed, and explosive. He's a big guy, 6'3", 208 pounds. He's massive. And he's a lot of people's, you say he's not next generational talent. He's a lot of people's number one receiver. There is a lot of people excited about this guy over Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's the one that I thought Adam would have more buzz about him. He was the one that I thought you were hotter on than JSM. But I personally think if you need a guy that's on the outside and not going to be in the slot, then he's perfect for you over these. There's a lot of smaller guys in this draft class that people are getting excited about. If you want that bigger guy that's strong, physical, he's a big receiver, great catch radius. We saw him at the combine have insane vert and broad. So, he's got jump along with the height and strength. Yeah, he's going to be a generational talent on the outside as that type of receiver, I believe. And like I said, there's a lot of people pegging him in as number one and being excited about him. So I will say, though, I've been watching a bit more tape on him, prep for this, just to kind of find out, a bit more. And he was open a hell of a lot and didn't get thrown the ball. And I think that's what we're saying when we're talking about him being at TCU and maybe Max Duggan not really getting the best out of him. So if you would have put this guy in at Ohio State, let's say, with their talent, he maybe have been notching sort of close to 2,000 yards in the season with more touchdowns. We would have been talking him up a bit more because he was open a lot and didn't get the ball. So great talent in this player.
Certainly going to be fun to see him in the NFL. Next, we'll sit with you, Andrew, and talk about Jordan Addison of USC. Did have 2 years at Pittsburgh University. Spent last year at USC, 3,134 yards in his college career, 29 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown as well. A lot of players, third receiver, it tends to be Jackson Smith-Njigba and Johnston, sort of battling between the 1 and 2, but a lot of a hype around Jordan Addison. What more can you tell us about him?
Yeah, I believe, for me, this is probably the guy that might fall to the Giants. We might get him at where we are. But if people see what he did when he was at Pitt and what he, prior to coming to USC, because there was a lot of talk about him, how good he was going to be at USC, but had his injuries and a few worries there. But I remember when we went to play golf at yours, Fred, this was one of the guys we were talking about being one of the top 5 prospects and coming out in this draft completely. So I don't think there's been a massive drop off that much for him to drop out and not be spoke about. That 2021 season with 1,593 yards, 17 touchdowns. He's probably maybe the best route runner in this class. And I always talk about that meaning a lot more going into the NFL. I spoke about it with Olave a lot when I said he's such routes. And it does play into it massively when you do make that transition. He's got good gears as well. And what I really, really liked about him was he improved on his drops from when he was at Pitt to when he went to USC. And that's really key, showing improvement through the years and getting better at something that's going to help you when you make it into the NFL. And he's good for yards after the catch. So lots of people say he didn't have a great combine. And then there was a lot of drop off on him from that. But I'm going to take him from his tape. I'm going to take him as the player he was at college. And I'd be really, really happy to get him at New York if he drops to us there. And I think he'd be a good talent. There's a lot of people saying from his combine, he might be wide receiver 2 talent, but I think he can be wide receiver 1 talent at 5'11", 173. Maybe he's on a little bit on the small side for that, but I'm happy with him. I think he'd be fantastic. A lot of people say if he can reach to the highest level of his ability, they're maybe saying a slightly smaller version of Stephon Diggs. So, who's not happy at that?
Well, yeah, I mean, having one Stephon Diggs in the NFL was great, let alone having 2 Stephon Diggs. I mean, I suppose there's a third Diggs in Trayvon, but obviously at corner. Alison, do you think, Adam, that he sort of maybe needs, if he's a great route runner already is he going to need experience around him to sort of fine tune that? If he's already great, how great could he be if he has someone around him that could tune that even more and also improve the rest of his game? Do you think, again, is this more fit than him being a franchise changing guy? Or do you think also maybe it seems like the first two are instant impact guys, and Addison maybe is a bit more of a slow burner for some people's opinions?
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be a slow burner. I just feel that, yeah, you're probably Smith and Jigba.
We got him back. We lost
my hair.
Sorry, we lost you very briefly. So repeat yourself.
I think all of these guys, apart from Smith and Jigba, are probably guys that are going to need time and need to get used to the NFL and things like that. Andrew pretty much said everything that I've got on there when it comes for Addison. I went more Tyler Lockett than Stephon Diggs, but I think it's kind of a similar sort of thing. I think he just needs to put on some strength. That's the thing that I think he's lacking. He's just too small and he's going to get pushed around. And I think that's something that will only sort of come through time and him getting a bit older and stuff like that. So I think that's probably the thing. That's kind of what I mean when I think he needs the time, and he's not going to be an instant impact because of that. But yeah, he's a really good route runner, great for yards after catch. Like Andrew said, struggled with drops at Pittsburgh, but then was perfectly fine last year and did really well with it. So I think that he's one to maybe think of for the future, and he might be very, very good in the future, but I wouldn't expect much from the first year.
I suppose we see a lot of smaller wide receivers, and I mean, at their height, they can be fantastic. I mean, the two ones that are springing to mind where you say about getting pushed off, but Hunter Renfrow, not last year, but the year before, smaller, weaker, was fantastic. It was phenomenal because of his route running and his timing. And then last year faded out a little bit. I know he had injuries as well. And then another one who situationally was really great, smaller guy, weak, was McCole Hardman. Did fantastic at the Kansas City Chiefs. They got rid of him, went to the Patriots, and was really silent last year. Again, I think a few injuries hit him as well, but it shows that there is a bit of fit to it. But if you can get consistent, you can become Hunter Renfrow that season and McCall Hardman for the season in Kansas City Chiefs. They were maybe not the headlines, but they were the guys that kept the chains moving and kept the cogs turning. And you always need them sort of players on your team. I have to admit, after these three, I know names, but I don't know that much. So there may be a bit more detail asked on these. I mean, I'm trying to get a little bit, our dynasty rookie drafts a little bit soon. I need to get a little bit of info on these guys. You never know if they might drop to me at the 11th pick, which of a 12-team league is going to be feeling a little sore by the time that first round gets to them. And I'll move on to with Zay Flowers out of Boston College. He's been there 4 years, a little bit longer than the other three guys we've spoken about already. 3,056 yards, 29 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns on his college career. Again, Boston College, smaller school. I'm not overly sure of any veterans or superstars that have come from Boston College. This is where Andrew's brain is going to rock back now, and he'll tell me, like, I don't know, Adrian Peterson went to Boston College or something like that, which I know he didn't. He went to Oklahoma, I know that. So what can you tell us about Zay Flowers?
Lightning quick, just ridiculously fast. That's the main thing you need to know about Zay Flowers. I think a lot of corners are going to struggle to keep up, I have to say. I think it's just he is just that bit quicker. So I think that's definitely the one. Obviously great for yards after the catch if you can get him the ball when he's passed and he's gone. So that's kind of the positive from him. Very T.Y. Hilton in my mind. That was kind of the sort of guy that I saw from that. I like you say, Boston College didn't play against any of the main teams from what I can see. He's 5'10", 172 pounds. Again, it's size. He's small in this, like smaller than what Jordan Addison is. So it's about whether or not he's going to be able to put on the strength and be able to be strong enough to not get pushed over too quickly. So I think that's going to be the problem with him. But I mean, just speed, it's ridiculous.
Well, on speed, Andrew, I mean, we've seen fast wide receivers go into the NFL, Tyreek Hill, and carve themselves as the best wide receivers in the league. We've seen some very, very fast guys go into the NFL, and they are not in the NFL very quickly. They just simply don't spring onto the main stage. What's the difference here for Zay Flowers? What makes him different to maybe some of these guys, but where he can succeed at the next level?
I'm not super hot on Zay Flowers.
No! So he's going to burn out quickly. Oh no! Oh gosh!
I do think he's a great talent, and I do see what the massive upside on the fact that the speed, the track guy, the good yards after the catch. He had a really good season. The stats are there. 5'9", 182 pounds. I'm just, he's got to defy the odds. I like him. I think he's good. I've just been a bit hotter on some of the other guys, and Zay Flowers is creeping up the boards. So I'm going to have to go back and watch more and see more. But yeah, I'll get there with him. And I do think he is. I've had him notched in at the Chiefs. So I've had him in at round one. Lots of people saying he's not even going to fall to the Chiefs from that far down. He's going to be gone before that. Wow. So he's definitely talented, and it's definitely worth a shot and a punt based on, like we're saying, that speed, that Tyreek Hill sort of like comparison that people are saying. Track guy, if you like that type of thing, then yeah, Patriots have liked that, Chiefs have liked that, so that could be there. And briefly, just going back to the Boston College, I think AJ Dillon went to Boston College, didn't he? Matt Ryan, I think, went to Boston College. So a couple of guys come out.
Couple of guys. No offense to Boston. I mean, you've got great. You've had the New England Patriots for the whole time, so I'm sure you've not been that worried about Boston College. Andrew hates him so much that he's actually knocked a foot off him, because Adam said he was 5'10" and Andrew said he was 5'9". So that's how much Andrew hates him. He's just chopping the guy down at the knees, bless him. But I'm moving on to another. I'm pretty sure I got told he was a speedster. So speak to you, Andrew. That's Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee. 3 years he's been there, 1,769 yards, 19 touchdowns on his career. I definitely watched a mock a while ago, and he went mega early because whoever was doing the mock said that this team likes their speedsters, and this guy is pure speed. Am I completely incorrect there, or is him and Zay Flowers going to be the quickest guys coming out here?
Yeah, definitely. He's a speedster. He's a different type of speedster to what we're talking with Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers probably more getting the ball and let him do the speed afterwards, whereas Jalen Hyatt's more one of those guys where he's flying down the field. He's more a vertical slot guy. He's gone straight, and you're throwing the ball over the top. He's open. We saw it, I think it was the Alabama game where he went off on one. And, he's going to be that sort of dynamic type of player. We had some good combine in the verts and the broad. They were on the higher end of it. But, yeah, he's slightly tall at 6 foot, 185 pounds. He's got that weight with him. The stats, again, at Tennessee, biggest school. I think he got 1,267, 15 touchdowns last year. So, different type. This is what you're saying, Fred. This is what you wanted to learn. You want to know what these types of guys were like. Like we say, Zay Flowers in the slot, going to get the ball early, going to get him to ball in his hands and then do the work. Jalen Hyatt down the field, in space, big plays, explosive plays from him. So we might not see, him getting the ball loads. It might be like occasionally in the game. I think I'm not going to liken him to anybody. A lot of people have likened him to Quez Watkins at the Eagles. Filling in there at wide receiver 3 and doing a really nice job. A lot of people like him. But in terms of takeaways, attributes and things, we've seen a lot of style of play like this from Duvernay, haven't we? And where they're great in games for one big play and that's it. And I do worry that that's what he could be. But I'm hot on him and I really like him. And I had him higher ranked than Zay Flowers on my board just for that explosive and big playability. So yeah, he is a quick guy, vertical slot.
He said he was what, 6'3", 6'4"?
6 foot.
Oh, 6. Sorry. Oh, I thought you said 6'4". I was like, oh wow, I will buy 6'4" and really fast over 5'10" and really fast. To be fair, I'm like, geez, this guy's like incredible athlete. Do you out of the two speedsters then, Adam? What are you preferring, Hyatt over Flowers? Like what have you seen of Hyatt that maybe has him the edge there, or not so keen?
I think it's a very difficult one because obviously Zay Flowers, it is like 100% all about the speed and like you say after the catch, whereas for Hyatt it's not so much after the catch, it's more about the fact that he's already made the
He's already
move
there.
sort of thing.
Yeah, he's already there.
Yeah, basically that's the difference. I like the fact that Hyatt, he's a little bit bigger. You know, I think that's definitely something. So he's less likely to get roughed up by the defenses. So I think that's definitely positive, and I think he's got really good catching skills. That was kind of the one thing that I felt with him, is that he's got good hands. He has played against better teams, obviously, being at Tennessee. The one thing, and I must admit, I don't really know much about this, but Andrew might. They've a lot of criticism of Tennessee and the way that they play their offense compared to the way that an NFL offense would be. So I don't know if that is something that would be a problem for them coming into the NFL.
I don't see why not. Yeah, that's the criticism that's coming around of saying that Hendon Hooker only produced these incredible stats because he was in that Tennessee high velocity offense, and you know that then is going to improve the likes of Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman. I think people are going to be talking about as a prospect for day 2 as well. So you know they're going to have those inflated stats based on the way that they play. But I don't think that's going to take away from what they actually did. You know, if you saw something in it that you liked that they did on those plays, why can't you just incorporate them as single plays into yours? Not their whole playbook, but you know, you've got the option there, haven't you? You've seen that he can do something different if you need that to be done. So yeah, I understand those criticisms because that's what I say. They're saying them about Hendon Hooker as well. So.
In a day that's seen Jeff Okudah be traded for a 5th-round pick, Greg Newsome requesting a trade away from the Browns, Devin White, linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, has requested to be traded away, but I've just seen pop up. So, I mean, feasibly, Bucs could get a 2nd-round pick for him. So maybe they might target a wide receiver, one of these wide receivers with a 2nd-round pick, or maybe even more. I suppose he's a fantastic linebacker. It'll be really interesting to see where Devin White would go if he does get traded. But more on these wide receivers. And Adam, I'll go to you. Talk about one wide receiver from North Carolina, Josh Downs. Been there for 3 years, 2,483 yards, 22 touchdowns on his career. A name I've heard, a player I have not watched. So it's all on you to educate me on all things Josh Downs.
Yeah, again, a bit of a slot receiver, 5'10", 175 pounds, so he's not big. 2021, he had really big catching problems. And in 2022, he caught everything. So I think we can safely say he sorted that out. So he's got good hands. I think he's good for contested catches. He's got really quick feet, great route runner. He kind of, to me, he feels very much like Jackson Smith and Jigba light. It's kind of like he's clearly not at the same level, but he kind of is just a bit of a poorer version, to be honest. A lot of people are saying that he's a 1st-round guy. I would say he's probably 2nd day. I could see him going 2nd round, I think, probably towards the beginning of the 2nd round myself. He's just a little bit smaller, and this is going to be a common thing that's probably going to be said about a lot of these guys. They're just a bit small. And I think that's the issue. That's why it's really difficult. I just feel this whole class is it's a little bit small, and it's just not quite as good as what we've had in the last few years.
Seems like it's all the munchkins from the Wizard of Oz that are running through the NFL draft then, rather than the big giants we've had in the past. Josh Downs, Jackson Smith and Jigba light, Andrew. Do you think that that people that are fancying someone like Jackson Smith and Jigba, if they do miss out on him, that he's going to be a sure bet that maybe they go and grab him in the 2nd, or do you think he could edge into the 1st?
He's definitely not edging into the 1st, not at his height and weight. I think that's going to put a lot of people off. But definitely a great talent. I know when I put out a post before the college season started and of my top 5 wide receivers to watch for that year, and I had him in at number 5 for that college year because for the college game he is perfect and like insane and like Adam said, real quick, great running his routes, and his hands were excellent last year. And he was, for a small guy at college level, he was great at contested catches as well. So, he's got a bit about him, but like I say, he's a bit on the small side. A lot of people are saying that when he can do his damage, he can do his damage towards that, like the red zone and sort of like those small yardage, sort of small plays. And the height doesn't really matter then. It's about getting the separation and getting your touchdown. And a lot of people, I say a lot of people, are using the words Hunter Renfrow for this guy, for the type of style that he can be third and Renfrow and get those third downs for you in that similar style. So I don't see him particularly being your wide receiver 1 or 2, but he's going to be an excellent 3 out the slot to move the chains and things like that. So it'd be a great acquisition to pick up. And I was real hot on him at UNC as a college player. So there's no reason why he can't find a home and have a really good NFL career.
Certainly going to be interesting to see where, if he is the second round, if he goes to where he may drop to. Andrew, move on to you with a player from SMU. Not even sure what SMU stands for. I didn't actually look at that when I was looking at these players. And that's Rashee Rice, 4 years, again, a little bit longer than some of these players. But been at college, 3,111 yards, 25 touchdowns for his college career. We've had some great Rices in the past at wide receiver. Is Rashee going to be in that conversation, or is this going to be a player that we see maybe going maybe third round, maybe?
Adam's little chuckle there. I was really hot on this guy through his career, and I was really quite happy that we might get Rashee Rice in the draft. I've still been quite high on him and putting him in my round ones, because I think there is a lot of wide receivers. Everyone likes a weapon, don't they? So we always do our mock drafts and we always put in your offensive lineman and your D line. Adam, we're all Green Bay Packers minds when we're picking our mock drafts of what people really need. But at the end of the day, GMs really do like a weapon. So I think there might be a few wide receivers go. I really like this guy. I think he had a good combine for me at the vertical and the broad, which are the jumping things. I always look at them when it comes to wide receivers. Again, another great route runner. Going to play out the slot, I think, 6'1", so he's over 6 foot, 205. So he's got good NFL size for that position. Had a really nice year, 96 targets, 1,344, 10 touchdowns. The only thing I would say at SMU, the routes are a bit more on the simpler side. When we talk about the Ohio State players and things like that, they're running the routes that they're going to see and playbooks they're going to get in the NFL straight off the bat. So maybe his routes were a little bit simple, but very good at it. So I really like this guy and think he'd be a great talent. And I think back end of the first, early second round for me, easily. I know a lot of people have got him a lot lower, but I really like him. Think he can be a great talent.
Are you in agreement there, Adam, with the tape that you've seen? Do you think that Rashee Rice could maybe edge into the first, top of the second?
I would be very surprised if he went in the first, personally. I think he's okay. I wasn't too excited by what I saw. I kind of felt like he disappeared in certain games. That was one thing that I think was a little bit concerning, considering who the sort of teams that they were playing. So that was one thing with him. But on the positive side, I think he actually plays a bit bigger. I think he does, the contested catches and stuff like that. He is very, very strong. And so that's one thing that you've got to look at. I think he's a day 2 pick myself. But I agree with Andrew for most of it. I think he's clearly a very talented wide receiver. He's just not as good as some of these other guys.
SMU's Southern Methodist University in Texas. Has any other player come from notable people?
Yeah.
There is not a list of notable people.
Good people come out of there every year, don't they? SMU is usually one that has
really
good round talent. Yeah.
NFL players from SMU. I don't believe you here.
We had one last year. Who was the SMU guy last year?
Apparently Eric Dickerson went there.
There you go.
That was quite a while ago, though. Yeah, exactly. Top 10 NFL all-time players from MSU. The SMU Mustangs. Kevin Beecham? No, is he there already? I don't know. I'm not convinced about this SMU hype here, to be honest. No, I don't know. I'm going to have a little research on that, I think. I'm gonna go to you, Adam, but I know that Andrew's gonna be licking his chops about this wide receiver, and he'll be definitely wanting to talk about him very quickly. So maybe you need to get to your point quick here. But Kayshon Boutte, LSU, 3 years he was there, 1,782 yards, 16 touchdowns, a name that I think because of Andrew I've heard actually for a very long time. I believe played alongside Jamar at LSU. In fact, it may have been. It may have been. In fact, I think it may have been when Jamar Chase got drafted. You went, and they've got Kayshon Boutte in a few years. He's going to be the next great thing. Well, Adam, not for you. I mean, he's got a great name. Kayshon Boutte is a fantastic name.
Yeah, great name, and that's where the great ends, I'm afraid. Poor combine, not a particularly great athlete. Had a purple patch in 2021 in about 5 games when he hit 9 touchdowns. And has done sod all since. On to Andrew.
Yeah, I knew Adam was going to be really critical of him. He really doesn't like him. 2021, when he really, 2020, 2021, when he really caught my eye, I was all over this guy. Thought he was going to be the next best thing. I've got my top 5 list in front of me. I'll put out before the season starts. Jackson Smith-Njigba, number 1. Kayshon Boutte, number 2. Yeah, that went really badly based on his season that he had in 2022, where game 1, he felt like he didn't get the ball thrown towards him enough, and LSU lost, and it was a big travesty. And he threw his teddies out and said, I want to be transferred. I don't want to be here anymore. They managed to work it out, and he managed to sort it out, and he managed to come back. But injuries, I believe he's had 2 foot injuries, so that might be a bit of a concern. But if he never really returned after his injuries, and he didn't look as the player he was back in 2020 and 2021. But I think if he can live up to the hype of 2021, then he is an absolute steal later on. I can see maybe with him being an LSU guy, I can see the Saints taking him late round, and the chances of and him, he's got upside for me because he's going to be a late round pick because of his attitude issues that he had last year. Didn't look interested, hands on hips during games and stuff. But I think if you can get him to an NFL team that can shake him a little bit and get the best out of him, he could be one of those bad attitude guys that turns out to be an absolute exceptional player. So they could chances.
What round do you think he gets drafted?
5, 4, 5.
Oh yeah, I reckon about 4.
5. Is a steal. At that, I think it's a steal because he got, if he hadn't have had the struggles that he had in 2022 and he'd have had a nice season and produced the goods and been injury free, we'd be talking about this guy being a potential, late round 1, round 2 guy. It's just he had a blip on his year, so I'm not going to hold it against him, and I think he's not going to turn bad overnight, and someone can get the best out of him, and he could live up to the hype that what I saw of him in 2021.
We may be just all hype. We'll have to find out in the NFL. SMU Mustangs, Cortland Sutton and Cole Beasley. They're 2 big names who went to SMU. So, and then there's a load of players. There is no place at the Giants apparently, so we may be wrong info there. We'll finish with one last wide receiver, Andrew, and that is Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss. It was there 4 years, 1,758 yards, 12 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. Is this a player that's in the Kayshon Boutte range of going in that sort of 4th, 5th round, or maybe Mingo might climb up the board? Ole Miss obviously have had a lot of talent over the years in the NFL. Is Jonathan Mingo going to be someone we need to keep our eyes on?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's going to be the one that slowly creeps up everybody's board. The more, we're not going to be the first podcast out there to bring him up and start talking about him. There's going to be loads that are kind of going, this guy's really underrated. At 6'2", 220 pounds. At the combine, he had great vert, great broad, and great bench. So he shows that great speed, size, and he's strong as well. So if anybody sort of clocks on that, 51 catches for 861 yards and 5 touchdowns, maybe that's not massively impressive to some people, but you watch the tape and see how good he is. I think he's going to be moving up boards quite quickly in we labelled him as a late round guy, but I think that there's the chances that this guy moves up to round 4, round 3, maybe. Adam might. I'm not sure where you've got him at, but I know Giants have been looking at him. We found out from earlier the Eagles have been looking at him from Gareth. I've seen him on everybody's PFF mock draft that they all put out. Everybody's got him on theirs. Everybody. You sort of see that the first few big names come off, defenders, cornerbacks, things like that. And then it's this guy as being the guy that everybody seems to want later on. So I'm going to see. I think he'll start moving up boards very quickly.
All I'm now waiting for is a big arm quarterback for the Slingo to Mingo for a touchdown, and that's going to be right. I'm sure it's not quite John Madden, I suppose, but go on, Adam. Sorry.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the value, isn't he? He seems to be the one that's being picked a lot. Good footwork, solid route runner. Not the greatest speed. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Chase Claypool. That kind of, which so not for everyone, but 6'2", 220 pounds. I think he's going to be decent, and the idea of Mingo and Booty going anywhere near each other is quite frankly disgusting. So I think we will hopefully Mingo will go a lot higher.
Very interesting. As we draw very much closer to the NFL draft, it is getting very exciting. I'm sure for you fantasy football fans out there as well, it's getting exciting. It certainly is for us NFL fans as well. Obviously, free agency trading's gone really quiet, so it's going to be all NFL draft stuff going on here. Some more mock the mocks to come out. A lot more things coming up for the Franchise Tag podcast before the draft that happens on April 27th. I say that with the utmost confidence, but I could be completely wrong, even though I said it at the start of the show. 27th, I knew I had it in the bag. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on all our socials. We have a lot of things coming out from the Franchise Tag podcast, whether it be audio, video, or the written word as well. There is a lot of great articles on our website that you can check out as well. Lots of fun things coming up as we get ever closer to the NFL draft. We'll see you all very soon. Have a good rest of your week.